Hi, Mary Katharine Ham on the road somewhere. Good morning, MK Hammer. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm on my extended world tour, as you know.
I know, and it's always going on. You're like Tina Turner. You just keep going. And so, can you sing Proud Mary? I just want to know if you're going to be able to step into those big shoes.
Oh, yeah, you want me to do it now?
Not right now, Mary Katharine Ham. I'd rather have your assessment of the Ron DeSantis rollout last night. What do you think?
So I thought that the Twitter thing was a little surprising because it imposed risk on a situation because you're not controlling the entire thing, and I think we saw the results of that. However, I think it's a tendency in politics to pant sweat over something like that, and I think that from what I can see from the campaign, they're moving forward, and he moved forward in that event and had a substantive discussion, and then went on and did the other things that he had planned to do that night. So I think if you soldier on, this does not become the defining moment. You just have to come back from it.
I'll tell you what, he leaned right into it. Chris Matthews' Hardball book, which is older than you are, Mary Katharine Ham,
Right.
had in it the line, which I'll never forget, hang a lantern on your problem. And I want to play for you the quick ad. I think this is very nimble of Team DeSantis. Cut number one. He put this out within 5 minutes of the Twitter Spaces ending. Go ahead, play this, guys. Oh, our computer is frozen, so I can't do it. He leaned right into it and said, I broke Twitter tonight, so now let's win
Right.
red. That's what you need to do, Mary Katharine, is when you have a
Yes.
glitch. But I am amazed that legacy media, because I go to Mimi Random, where the left-wing headlines go to gather every morning, and it's like an endless, oh, what a disaster, oh, woe is Ron. And DeSantis doesn't care. He raised $1 million last night.
Well, and money talks, man. If you have that to show, it will dim the memory of the other thing. So that's part of it too.
Yeah, but we live online. Were you watching? Because A, no one knew how to use Twitter Spaces last night.
Right.
So everybody learned how to use Twitter Spaces. And then everybody, it was like a tough crowd at a comedy club for the first 20 minutes because everybody had a funny line and Team Trump
Yes.
jumped on him. But he powered through, pushed it aside, and rolled on. I actually kind of like that messaging, and I'm neutral. I thought Trump did good messaging. I thought DeSantis did good messaging. Generally speaking, there's a winner here. But tell me, do you think we'll ever talk about Twitter Spaces again? I mean, the launch.
Well, I think it's going to be. He's going to have to work out the glitches before anyone else does a very high profile event like that. Maybe he and Tucker might be having a discussion about that.
Yeah, yeah. So here's my one takeaway that no one else might think about.
Yeah.
Because the RNC's got to run these debates, and you and I have both sat there at those debates, and we've seen big media roll out debates, and they know what they're doing, right? That's how they. So that might have hurt the little guys who want to run a debate that threw in a bid to the RNC, and if they're a newbie and they're coming new to the show. Do you think that's going to impact the way the RNC, David Bossie, and Ronna McDaniel evaluate newbies?
No, I think that's a fair point, but I also think that the GOP and the RNC have a bias toward trying different things, right? Because the road is so rough with the mainstream media that I think they're willing to take more risks than the other side is. And honestly, I think they should, but they should just stress test them before they do that.
Oh boy, if I'm David Bossie and it's my committee and I've been doing this for 2.5 years to get ready, all of a sudden I'm looking at the newbies and saying, can I really afford to have 10 candidates on a stage and not be live
And
for 20 minutes?
Go dark.
And go dark. I mean,
It's not
that's
good.
got. I'm just thinking to myself, David Bossie was making notes last night. Ronna was calling him on the bat line to the bat cave and saying, David, should we rethink this order? So, Mary Katharine, what did you make of the moderation? Because the one thing I thought DeSantis was fine. I don't know who David Sachs is. I'm sure he's a smart guy. I know who Elon Musk is, and he should never be the moderator. He should always be the guest. What did you make of that part?
Like it was unconventional, like the rest of it was. A little bit odd. I thought that DeSantis' answers were like pretty in depth and interesting. I liked that there was a lot of policy discussion, and I think that's what the team can segue to is say, hey, look, we tried this new thing because we wanted to have a real conversation, and we were able to do that eventually. So I kind of enjoyed that he got to hit on a bunch of policy issues, but definitely an odd setup.
I was hoping that he was going to go full Yale law geek. He got very close because he was talking about the Chevron doctrine. At one point, he said, we need to reconstitutionalize the government. That is sweet music to Hugh Hewitt's ears because it means,
I love it.
I know, the Fifth Amendment, overturned deference to the agencies, all that sort of, and then he backed away from the edge of going full law geek. Do you think America wants full law geek?
Well, that's my concern, right? I like policy, but that doesn't mean voters want to talk about a bunch of policy, right? Even though I wish that they would. But look, I think that with the right candidate, you can have somebody who's interested in policy, who speaks to people and says, look, I'm interested in this because I know how to serve you better if I study this stuff. And I think his COVID record shows that. I studied this. I knew what liberty was. I knew what the facts were. And I came forward with a plan that was better than what these other states did. And that's why policy matters to people.
He also hinted that we need an assessment of what happened in COVID. And boy, I'm eager for this, Mary Katharine. I want to go back and know, does the federal government know how badly screwed up? Because yesterday, the Surgeon General released a report on social media. It's an important report. It's just written in Greek, and nobody can understand it. And besides, I don't know if anybody trusts the Surgeon General. Are you in a hurry to take your cues from the Surgeon General?
No, thank you. So many federal agencies disgraced themselves during COVID, and I think the more damaging part is that they don't care that they did, right? Rochelle Walensky, who's on her way out now, just says like, oh yeah, we're going to reform, but her reform doesn't actually address any of the things they did wrong. Meanwhile, places like North Carolina, where the governor shut schools unnecessarily for more than, I think, 15 months down there, is declaring an emergency and abusing his powers again in order to prevent people from solving the problem with schools that he caused. I mean, it's a shocking thing what people are doing in their shamelessness after this.
Let's talk about Roy Cooper for a moment. That is eye-rolling. That should turn North Carolina red forever. Their schools don't work there like they don't work everywhere else, usually in large swatches of the entire state. And so the state legislature, by supermajority, overriding his veto, passes school choice so the money follows the student. I don't know what he's going to do with a state of emergency. I thought it was the clownish move of the year. What does he do with a state of emergency, Mary Katharine?
I think he's just like making waves, but he's also abusing his power. And by the way, if this was a Republican governor, you would hear nothing but this on the national news. And here's my thing about the people who complain from the left that school choice is going to mess up public schools. The job was done by you guys. The job was done by you guys in school closures, and it hurt a bunch of kids, and people understand that they need an escape hatch better than they've ever understood it before. And you didn't serve them. You chose not to serve them. I was in one of the districts that was closed for more than a year, and people need tools to escape from that. So when they say you're messing up public schools, you already did the work, my friend. That wasn't us.
Yeah. My merry band of grandkids were in England that year, the first full year of shutdown. Right. So they went to school. And they are not, they're not a year and a half. They just go to school in England because they figured it out. You know what? There might be some risk here, but we can't really say that there are. So we know there's a risk of not going to school. And now it's woe is me. What do you make of the head of the teachers union running around to Ukraine? She is our best. Is she a Republican, Randy Weingarten? Do you think she's with us?
I think she's a plant. My favorite moment of 2021 before Youngkin was elected was that I tweeted, oh, please let Terry McAuliffe bring Randy Weingarten to stump for him. Yes. And I was joking. And then he did. And I was like, maybe I'm manifesting this.
Yeah, and then he did. And they still don't know what happened. I have here a story scoop. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin reconsiders 2024 bid. Now, this was from 2 days ago. Would you welcome that, or do you want him to stay there and fix Virginia for 3 more years and then worry about national politics?
I mean, I think he's skilled. I also like him being skilled in Virginia. And so I'm a little torn on this. And I also think that, like, I'm pretty open about the fact that I think DeSantis is the right marriage of someone who can marry the Trump and the suburban wings of the party. It seems fairly obvious to me that he might be the person who can do that. So I'm not sure. Like, Youngkin did it in Virginia, but he's got a much lighter touch than DeSantis, and I'm not sure it reaches the same Trump-leaning voters that DeSantis can. So
it's interesting.
He's very skilled. Virginia shows it.
You say there are wings. There are many wings. We are like the seraphim. there are like 6 wings, and they all kind of, and people move between. It's like a mall from my youth, where there were like 85 different hallways to go down to get to the Orange Julius. The Republican Party is a sack of marbles spilled on the floor. Does anyone bring them all together until they get the nomination?
I think it's going to be very tough. And I think once the number of people in this race gets off one hand, it's going to be a lot trickier to try to consolidate.
Yeah, our favorite happy warrior is got to be Tim Scott. My favorite happy warrior is Tim Scott. And I don't know that anybody else claims the happy warrior mantle besides Glenn Youngkin, who's not in. Maybe the vice president does. What do you make of Senator Scott's rollout?
I enjoyed it. I think he's a great speaker. I think he brings emotion and stories to politics in a wonderful way that really, that I think teaches a lot of Republicans a lot of things about some of his struggles as he grew up. Obviously, the backlash to him and to Nikki Haley is sometimes overtly racist, which is like it never ceases to amaze me from the left. But he does. He has a sunny message, and he has a powerful message that Republicans will respond to. I do wonder, though, if in this time, with the left acting the way that it does, if people want a happy warrior or they just want a warrior.
Yeah, that's interesting, Mary. I don't know. But I do want to say this. I can tell who's been in church a lot and what kind of church they've been in. If you Ron DeSantis is Catholic, so he's been hearing bad preaching for 44 years, and that's okay. I'm a Catholic. But the guy who's been hearing good preaching for his 40-plus years is Tim Scott. He's been in the black church for 40-plus years. And you know what? It shows, Mary Katharine Ham, if your butt's been in a pew for decades and decades and you heard great preaching or mediocre or none at all. Don't you think?
I think you're right, and he's a joy to listen to. He really is.
Yeah, and that comes from listening to good pulpit speaker. Mary Katharine Ham, Getting Hammered is her podcast with Vic Mattis, which I promote every week. And I don't have to listen to it because my wife tells me everything that you've done. Thank you, Mary Katharine Ham. Go get Getting Hammered at iTunes, Spotify, everywhere there are podcasts, and